Good morning, everybody. We are week 7 here for the South Haven Business Hub Group with Debi Howe. We have a special guest, Jeremiah Smith, today, and the topic is going to be Know Your Numbers. So I'm going to flip this camera around. We're going to get right into this morning. It's going to be some good stuff. So 1 second, I'll put you on.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate all your assistance in our podcast and entrepreneurial journey. I'm here with Jeremiah Smith this week, and Jeremiah is one of our Michigan top 50 organizations to watch. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And one of the things that we talk about with starting businesses and growing businesses, and a lot of the topics we've been talking about today, we want to talk about how it's important to know your numbers. So you can price accurately, you can hire appropriately, you could do all those things that help your business grow. And Jeremiah is a great example of that.
It's on me, right?
Yep.
Well, I'm Jeremiah. I'm from South Haven. Let's see here.
How many years ago?
I'm Jeremiah, originally from South Haven. Live in Kalamazoo now. Graduated from Lake Michigan College with a degree in business management and marketing. But ever since the age of 15, been selling shoes out the trunk of my car. Started off throwing parties. Always had a knack for customer service and just pushing the agenda of delivering a service at a fair price. Driven by really wanting to see the customer happy, smiling, and let's be honest, from being poor. I wanted to make a difference in my bottom line.
Quickly,
Yeah.
look at
Speaking
you.
about that, Jeremiah, your bottom line, tell me what you do for that bottom line. What business are you in?
Well, I started off in 2011, Coin Laundry in Hartford, Michigan. Started Coin Laundry, thought I was going to really make a lot of money. Based off my demographics research, we were projected to do $300,000 a year with like a 45% profit margin. I started at the age of 23, so I thought I was going to be rich, take the profits, build a studio, build a house, etc. It didn't work that way, which led me into the commercial laundry. So I had to go out and chase accounts and knock on doors and try to get commercial linen. But that did not come just by losing money. My mother was in the hospital and she had an immune disorder. But I watched the doctor touch the cubicle curtain, touch my mother, go back out. My nephew did it. This was all before COVID. And I asked the nurse, who's cleaning the cubicle curtain? Because everyone's touching the curtain, then they're touching my mother, and it can make the situation worse. But nobody had any answers for me. So I ended up taking that concern to Western Michigan University Business College, and we did a year-long study on disinfecting the cubicle curtain. And when the study came back, it showed that it was very necessary to clean the curtain. And then I created a process on disinfecting the cubicle curtain while still protecting its outer layer. Took that study over to I went over to Bronson, knocked on the door. Simultaneously, I was buying out a contract and got the business. And they gave me majority of their locations. And from there, it just kind of created a snowball effect where I was like, how can I help and decrease the infection rates at the hospital or other hospitals or small facilities, which led me to a company called Allegiant Linen. At that time, we called it Allegiant Laundry, but we since converted because more focus on medical, hospitality, and industrial. So starting that business, it started off good, but it was so many moving parts that we had to learn, and most importantly, keeping our infection rate down and processing. So since then, we grew from just 2 people to 8, right? We're still small, but we're impactful. And we're projected, if our projections show, which is something we can talk about later, projections don't necessarily mean that that's going to happen. We'll grow to 35, 40 employees, and we'll exceed our own expectations from 2011.
Jeremiah has done a great job in growing his company and finding a problem and creating a solution for that problem. So, but going through it, we all know as entrepreneurs, what was your biggest challenge, or what is your biggest challenge?
Well, honestly, starting off, my biggest challenge is still a challenge today. Every entrepreneur out there knows growing a business is like raising a kid. And at some point, you got to send a kid off to school or college. And my biggest challenge was starting off. I'm going to give you a couple different challenges, but very first was micromanaging, because I didn't want any mistakes. And the only way you grow is you gotta make mistakes. It's gonna happen. You're not gonna go through this thing unflawed. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna lose customers. You're gonna try your best to get them back. They won't come back. You're gonna disappoint employees. I mean, you just can't make everybody happy. So that was one of my biggest challenges. And the way I went about correcting that and continuous improvement on that is trying to improve who I am as a person, not beat myself up so much about the mistakes. And then I got several mentors, ones that I can lean on that will actually tell me, yeah, I made the same mistake. And these guys are 10 times more successful than me, times 10. And it helps because you look at these guys and you're excited to try to become who they are, and they humanize it for you and say, I made these same mistakes. So it's good to get a mentor. Today's challenge, most importantly, is employment. I think everybody's feeling that challenge, right, of employing the appropriate people. But I just was with one of my mentors, and he said, you have to understand, this is your business. This is not their business. There's a difference. So you can't expect people to perform like you, but you do have to get the maximum performance out of them. How do you do that? And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, oh. You become personable. You understand what's their passion, what's their drive. Most people do come to work for a paycheck, but they do have to have some type of enjoyment behind it, or they got some type of purpose. If you can help them identify their purpose and somehow implement it in your workplace or activate it to give them more drive, the human performance goes up, which creates an infectious culture in a positive way that could draw in more people the same way. And that works both ways. If you got a negative culture, you draw in more negative people. It decreases production and it hurts. And then the killer. When do you shut it off? I'm 36, full of gray. When do you shut it off? And I've been practicing on how do I really pull the plug? It's been difficult the past 2 years, but this past year I finally started implementing some personal self-care into my regimen to lower the stress levels. But to me, those are some of the biggest challenges. And as you notice, I'm not talking about making sales and knocking on the door and all that. It's more culture-driven, people-driven, self-care. I believe personally, if you offer a good product, which most of us do, it's how you're treating yourself and your employees in the process of trying to make the sale or give the service that bleeds out. A stressful owner looks stressed when he comes to his customer, right? A stressful owner, a leader, stresses his team when the team sees it. So it could hurt the performance, it could, et cetera. So how are you treating yourself in the process, and how are you treating your team? I know that was a long answer, but
it was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Jeremiah, you've learned a lot through your journey as an entrepreneur, and we hear a lot of entrepreneurs saying the same thing you are. But what has been your biggest strength then so far?
Well, biggest strength is resilience. During the whole pandemic, we didn't do a layoff. We answered the call. When the customer needed us to maneuver, we maneuvered quickly. For example, the isolation gowns were shortage. It was a huge shortage. And I had a few connections. And I ended up calling one of my connections in the linen world and said, I'm a small guy and I really need your help. And we were able to provide over 19,000 ISO gowns to the hospital and process and clean them and store them. And I was invited to be a part of the pandemic team because of the ISO situation. So we were able to maneuver quickly. And I think that was one of my biggest success. And because it was a service to the community that right in Little Hartford nobody knew about, but we were making impact on so many levels of different people's lives that was being affected by the COVID-19. And behind that success, we had got recognized as Small Minority Business of the Year. Never seen it coming. But that's just a reflection of putting your head down and doing the work. We weren't looking for any accolades because of what we did. We were just trying to make a difference.
Geez, Jeremiah, you've done so many great things, not only for yourself and the business, but for the community. What would you tell other people thinking about starting a business?
Oh, man. Well, I can't lie about this, right? You gotta have some passion. You gotta have some passion. I'm gonna be straight up. If you're only going in business to make money, and that's your main focus, don't do it. Because you're gonna ride some rodeos, and you're gonna need some passion to get you through the hard times. Now, if you believe in your product, and you really, really believe in your product, and you believe that it could be profitable, get you a board of directors, some people you trust. But don't share your idea out of the gate until you're ready to launch it, and you poked holes in it and you ran it through all the filters. Because if you share your dream too early, Dream Killers is gonna kill it. It's just that simple. So don't talk to your mom, don't talk to your cousin, don't talk to people that know you, because they know you on a personal level, and they're gonna give you insight based off your attitude and how they grew up with you. Run it by another business person. Talk to somebody that's been in the game. Find a mentor in that game. And then you gotta really push and believe in yourself. And the hardest part about this, if it's not working, you gotta pivot. You gotta leave it alone. You gotta switch it. You gotta reshape it. Don't get so caught up in your passion that it prevents you from having profits. Now, I know all this sounds negative, right? But I'm just telling you, you gotta run it through this filter, then you gotta run it through another filter, and you gotta know your numbers, you gotta twist your numbers, you gotta understand what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to accomplish personal freedom? Are you just trying to do a side hustle? Or you really trying to, replace your job? Or is just some extra to do? What is it? But most importantly, as we stare at the end goal, you gotta embrace every step of the journey. Now, I'm gonna get right down. I'm gonna drop some real key components that I feel are important once you start going. Get you a good CPA. Get you a good bookkeeper. Get you a good lawyer. Build a relationship with the local banks, or whoever you're banking with. Ask them their positioning on startup business. Ask them, how do you feel about, companies that may not have a whole bunch of revenue out of the gate, or fresh companies. Most importantly, you need to connect with Debi. You need to connect with the Small Business Development Technology Center in Kalamazoo or Grand Rapids or in your local region. And you got to connect with the chamber. All these things are going to help. Because believe it or not, entrepreneurship is what drives America. It's not the big corporations you see every day. It's the small ones that you don't hear about. You got to connect with those guys, and you got to get some mentors. And whatever it is, I'm telling you, whatever your business is, protect it. It's your baby. Believe in it, but you got to know the numbers. Understand your margins. Understand your target audience. If you're offering a premium service, don't market it to people that's not interested, because it's just going to be weighing on you because you're focused on the wrong area. And be okay with starting small, and most importantly, you got to celebrate the small wins because the hits are coming, So celebrate the small wins and push it. And I know I'm getting long-winded here, but you got to listen to some daily motivation. You got to massage your mind with the direction that you're trying to go. Surround yourself with the people that are already in the business or somewhat in the business, because it gets lonely out there if you're married and you come home and maybe your wife or your husband don't want to hear you talk about your business that you're starting. So you start to internalize, and these are experiences that I had myself where I'm consistently talking linen. We're in the commercial linen business, and that's all I'm thinking about, talking about. Sometimes your friends don't want to talk about that. So I got a business group that we meet every quarter, and boy, we get to pour it on. And it's nonstop, and everybody's tank is empty, and we get to go back out and refill it with our daily work life. So I want to leave you with this. It's so important as an entrepreneur, understand that what you're doing does make a difference, and it is impactful. And if you can focus down on the impact you're making on your community and your people, the profits will follow. It's important to understand your margins, but it's more important to understand the impact you're making, because your impact will be seen by several people. When you don't think people are watching, your community's watching, they are. So you have to focus on that and stay focus driven. And by all means, if you're weak in an area, hire for it. And if you can't hire for it, bargain for it. Trade some services for another service if you can. By all means, don't quit and keep pushing it. But don't quit believing in yourself. Write down your thoughts, manifest it, and keep God first.
I want to thank Jeremiah for being here. He's such an inspiration and giving our future entrepreneurs some hope and help. I am with the South Haven Region Business Hub. We have 23 mentors, subject matter experts that can help you along the way. So if you're thinking about starting a business, need help growing a business, let us help you. Our services are free. That's what we're here for. The journey isn't easy, but the United States is built on our small entrepreneurs. We thank them along the way. I've been there, I've been one myself. I call myself a serial entrepreneur, so kind of been doing it for a while. Come to South Haven Region Business Hub. Look up our website. We're here to help if we can. Take care.